Hi, it's that time again. Q&A Wednesday. And we've got some good ones this week. You folks are really making us dig deep on some of these. So please keep them coming because they're great questions.
Yeah, really great.
So based on the questions we got, we decided to group it into a theme. And this week's theme is the ballet training path. So what could have been done differently, and then also how to figure out a path going forward. And we got a few multi-part questions, and we decided to pull them apart and answer each one in some more detail. We also got more questions than we could get to for the week. So if you don't hear your question answered in this round, we do promise that we will get to them, I hope, next week.
Soon.
Yeah, soon.
Soon.
So let's get to it. The first question is, as experienced dance parents, looking back, what things would you have done differently?
Okay, so pour yourself a cup of coffee. Let's get into it. Let me just say that I've given this a lot of thought lately. And I want to be a little bit nuanced and speak to a few different parenting choices that I wish that I had done a little bit differently, rather than things that I overall would change. If I knew then what I know now, I actually would have raised Abby differently. I would have raised her to be a little bit more selfish. And I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. When she was younger, she was at a competition dance studio, and it was a bit of a utopia. Really talented kids, like multiple first place overall advanced national winner talented. And they were all friends who were not competitive with each other. When one of them placed higher than the other, they were genuinely happy for each other. Stood on the wings screaming for each other, just so supportive. And it really was a dream. And so it was a real rude awakening for her when she moved to a serious pre-pro ballet program. And I, as a parent, did not do the work to mentally prepare her for what a highly competitive training environment would be like, because I really had no idea what she was walking into, and what that really looked like. Ballet is an inherently selfish career. You are so focused on yourself, your body, your performance, your progress. Thinking of others is secondary. And she really was that kid who always let others go before her. We taught her to wait her turn. Don't always push to the front. Give others a chance. Be a kind, thoughtful human. And I'm so proud of who Abby is. However, I do think that it has caused her a lot of heartache and disappointment and hurt feelings. And I really wish that it was different. I wish that ballet schools focused on the culture of the school rather than just on the training. But that is a conversation for a whole other day. Other things I wish that we were able to do a better job of is teaching her how to allow things to roll off her back and to not be so much of a pleaser. And I know that this kind of goes into that type A personality, and it helps her be a great dancer, but she takes everything so personally and wants to make everyone happy. And she eventually did work with a performance coach to help her build her mental toolkit. But I really wish that we had done it a whole lot earlier and maybe started therapy in conjunction with the performance coach work, to really help her process the pressure and anxiety that she really does feel every day. And lastly, I would have taken her for a second opinion earlier than we did for a very painful 3-year injury that eventually ended in surgery that she had just this last December. Injuries are very common with dancers who are, after all, elite athletes. Their tolerance for pain is extraordinary. Dancers really need a doctor that understands the rigor of their training and what their bodies go through every single day. And we were getting good medical care, and it was not negligent. They just missed something. I wish that I had been a little bit more proactive and sought out a second opinion earlier than we did. So.
Yeah, that was a long road.
It was a very long road. Very, very long road.
Yeah. So what would I have done differently? So many things. So many things. But there are really 3 that come to mind. The first has to do with school. So Stan started in a full-time online high school program sophomore year, and he was taking a pretty rigorous course load. Yep. And I think we should have not put him in something so rigorous. It coincided with his first year in the upper level at San Francisco Ballet School. And then also, he had just moved out. So he was living the dream on his own in his own apartment with a roommate. Oh, and then it was COVID. And so all the kids were just getting back into the studio after having been on lockdown. So a lot was being thrown at him all at once. And I think we really underestimated this. And I think the combination of the rigorous course load and then the other stuff that was going on, really, he paid for it with his mental health. So we finally woke up and we switched him into a less rigorous school program for his junior year.
Right.
And it was a lot easier. So the second thing that we should have done was we really were trying to jam a lot into every waking minute. And when Sam was little, everything was a no. Do you want to try this? No. Do you want to try that? No. So we told him that for every 2 no's, there had to be a yes. And that continued. And as he got older, he and we flipped to saying yes to everything. So outside classes, Pilates, outside strength work, take your pick. And looking back, we really didn't give him enough time and space to say enough is enough. I think we were so caught up in that ballet horse race that you always hear about that we thought he needed to do all of this in order to keep up or that he would fall behind. And the problem is it probably had the opposite effect. It screwed with his mental health, and that ended up affecting him in the studio, because if your head's not screwed on straight, you're not going to perform as well in the studio as you want to.
Absolutely. So you really need that rest time.
Right, exactly. The last thing is we should have been more forceful about him and his summer programs. He missed a program because of COVID that he really wanted to go to. And so 2 summers ago, he went to a 5-week program and a 2-week program. But he was nursing an injury at the time, and we didn't realize how bad it was. And I think we should have not let him go to the second program. I actually called Sam and asked him and said, what could we have said to you that would have kept you from going? And he said, absolutely nothing would have kept me out of that program. I would have hated you.
That's Sam.
Yeah. And he said it was worth going to both. And, I don't happen to agree with this. And I think we should have come down harder and not let him go. But you got to pick your battles.
Right. And I think that is something that I think all of us ballet parents really wrestle with, because the kids are so driven and they're so focused. And we just think like, okay, well, they really want to do this. And we as parents really have to figure out some boundaries and parameters about what is acceptable and when they really do need downtime.
Right. And you're probably seeing that a lot of what we're talking about had an impact on the kids' mental health. Sometimes it's hard to spot when your kids are having trouble. For us, fortunately, we found out in time to do something about it. Jenny mentioned that Abby started working with a performance coach. She actually recommended that person to us, and we had Sam start talking to her as well. Yep. Now, we're not mental health professionals, but one thing we will say is that it really helps to have someone who's objective that your dancer can talk to, because they're not always going to want to talk to their parents. No. Sam has been working with this performance coach that Jenny recommended to us for just over 2 years. And it's been so helpful. And I tell everyone that if your dancer is willing, it is so worth it to get them talking to somebody before the issues arise. That way you can head things off at the pass. We were lucky we caught it just in time. But if we had started earlier, I think I would have been a lot more comfortable. And if any of you are interested in hearing about the person that Sam and Abby have worked with, please reach out at www.ballethelpdesk.com and send us a note via our contact form.
So the next question we got was, what would your dancer change? And we're going to assume that what you mean is similar to what you asked us as parents, but from the kids' perspective. So it's really kind of funny that this question just came through, because Abby and I commute every day from about 50 miles one way to ballet. And we actually just had this conversation in the car last week. So luckily, her dad and I seem to have done an okay job, because the list was pretty short. And truth be told, I was expecting a pretty long list. When Abby was 11, she left her ballet school to train privately with a teacher. A little context, he is a great teacher, and he really, really believed in Abby. We left the ballet school with the promise that he was eventually going to create a small school for pre-pro kids, and that they would perform and train together.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He was going to create a school?
He was.
Oh, wow.
And that just never materialized. Though the training was excellent, she got a ton of personalized attention. she really learned how to be a very strong paw partner with his very detailed tutelage, and it was really very, very helpful. She now just realizes that she would have been better off with the structure of the formal school with privates on the side rather than him as her primary teacher. There were two other girls who trained with the kids with Abby several days a week.
Were they the same age as Abby?
No. One of them was the same age, and one of them was a few years older. And they became great friends. Each other's cheerleaders were still in contact, but it definitely did not have the camaraderie of a ballet school. So unfortunately, it ended suddenly for reasons that are irrelevant to the topic at hand. And that led us to have to try to scramble to find her training somewhere mid-year through the school year. Abby was a preteen, so she really struggled with the complexities of what was happening. It was a really, really hard time for her and for our family. She was wrestling with the abruptness of the transition, and we were feeling pretty regretful for not moving her earlier. We're going to do a little transition, and now we are on to the last set of questions that we have to do with specific training and that path. So here we go. First, at what age do dancers typically start training full-time? You're going to hear this from us over and over and over again. It depends. It depends on your child. It depends on your family situation. It depends on where you live in terms of geography. And it depends on the training you're receiving at your home studio. We have seen kids go away as early as 12 and as old as 18. But in general, and I mean in general, because there are always outliers, most kids move to full-time training around their junior year of high school. Okay, the next question was, at what age do dancers start applying for trainee programs? And again, so most students start looking for trainee programs during their senior year of high school or whenever they hit the top level of their school.
And that can vary a lot.
It really can.
It just depends on the school.
It really depends on the school. And some go away a little bit earlier and some a little bit later. So for example, I know we talk about San Francisco a lot, but that's our kids' training experience. So at San Francisco Ballet School, it ranged from the dancers turning 18 this year to some turning 20. Some programs really do bring the kids into the trainee program when the kids are a little bit younger, and then they stay trainees for a few years. And some are a one and done, and then you either are accepted into the next level or you have to go find another place to train. One thing to keep in mind is that trainees mean different things in different companies. So as you're researching the various training paths, make sure you have a clear understanding of what level a trainee is at a particular company. And we will be posting a blog entry about this in early May to help you figure this out and understand what those different things mean. But a short version is you want to understand how many layers there are from the trainee program to joining the company as a core member. And as we all know, that can really be.
There's a lot of variety in that, yeah. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit to summer. Everyone has already accepted their summer programs at this point, and the one word that people keep talking about is blacklisting. So let's talk about that. Here's a question from a reader. My daughter was accepted to Ballet School X, and she's interested in attending full-time in the future. However, she is not yet in high school, and she has already accepted another summer program to attend. Will declining the school she ultimately wants to attend for year-round blacklist her for future admission? Okay. Let's just put this to bed right now. No, you definitely did not burn a bridge by having your daughter decline the program and choose to go elsewhere. I know people are really worried about that, but people are used to this. It happens all the time. Kids audition multiple places and can only attend one, maybe two programs in a summer. It's like applying to college. You apply to 12 schools, but you can only go to one.
Right.
Every school knows this. My son auditioned for one particular program 4 years running. Finally attended after the fourth audition. He'd turned the school down the other years, and it never seemed to affect admission the following year, although we were terrified it would. You hear rumors that some schools blacklist students if they turn them down, but it's a myth. Don't worry about it, especially you had mentioned your daughter's 14. don't worry about it at age 14 for sure.
Yeah, and I totally agree, Brett. I mean, this was Abby's experience as well. Abby had turned down summer intensive and year-round offers and continues to be accepted into those programs the next year. This is an urban myth. This does not happen.
So don't worry about it. There was a second part to this question too. And the second part was this. This ballet school X, the one that they turned down for summer or want to turn down for summer, is her dream school. And it is extremely expensive. How on earth do people afford this? We are a single income family, but my spouse makes too much to qualify for financial aid. Can we use 529 money to pay for ballet training? Daughter will be entering 9th grade in the fall and wants to go away starting in 10th or 11th grade. Okay, so let's just start by saying, yeah, ballet is really expensive. No way around that. Yeah. With regard to financial aid, though, I'm sensing you may be making some assumptions about financial aid based on the way colleges and universities handle it. So ballet schools actually have a lot more discretion when it comes to doling out money. And the good news is that most, if not all, of the larger U.S. company-affiliated schools and conservatories, like North Carolina School of the Arts, when I talk about conservatories, Ellison, Harrod, The Rock, that's what we're talking about.
Right.
All of these places offer generous merit and also need-based aid. They want students to be able to come there and they don't want money to be an issue.
Right.
In fact, at some schools like Harrod, the students, I think they go for free, like tuition, room, and board is all covered. We can also tell you that Canadian schools will work with families to ensure that students can attend regardless of the financial situation. And that's not just Canadian students. We're aware of several students who are not Canadian who attend schools in Canada and do receive generous aid packages.
Mm-hmm. Also, one more thing to keep in mind is I know everyone feels like they have to send their kid away as soon as possible, like that they're going to miss their moment, like this tiny little window. And that really is not the case. It is perfectly normal for kids to wait until their junior or senior year. When our kids were in the top level of their school, there were several kids who had just turned 19 that year, and that was their first year at that program. It's the equivalent of a freshman year in college. The age range in that level is typically 17 to 19. So really, don't feel like you have to jump into this race so early. You have to do what works for your family. And if it means staying local for one more year, as long as he or she is getting good training, and clearly they are because they're getting into great summer programs, really don't worry about it.
Right. There's no hurry on any of this. So this reader had also asked us about how to spend money, college money for tuition. We're not financial advisors, so we're hesitant to make recommendations on this. But what we can tell you is 529 money cannot be used to pay for ballet training unless a school accepts the FAFSA. And that is the same form that students fill out for financial aid in college. However, and most schools don't accept the FAFSA, most ballet schools. However, you can use 529 money to pay for private online high school. You can actually use it for any private school. Be sure to check with your individual 529 plan, but I believe this is the result of the change in the tax laws in 2017. And we actually did that with Sam when he was in a private online high school program. So one decision that we made when it came to finances was this, and this is, a very individual decision, but we knew Sam wasn't planning to attend college anytime soon. His goal is a professional ballet career.
Right.
We're also hoping he'll graduate from high school, fingers crossed. And once we knew that he was far enough down in his training, around maybe junior year, we knew that this path was likely going to be open to him. So we were comfortable taking some of the money we'd set aside for college to use for ballet training. Now, that's an individual decision, but that's what we chose to do. Okay. And as an aside, when it comes to college classes, a lot of dancers take one college class at a time while they're dancing. And this actually helps make things far more affordable because they're doing it while they're working. Right. And there are a number of kids in the Houston Ballet Second Company that are doing that. And once you're in a full company, if it's an AGMA company, which is the union that represents ballet dancers in the US, college classes can be taken for a discount. And so that's another way to kind of spread the money out a little bit.
Right. One piece of advice that we will give you as an aside, talking about the financial part, is that it is hard. Don't be so doctrinaire when it comes to a specific ballet school or bust, like SFB or bust or PNB or bust. There are a lot of schools that provide really excellent ballet training, and some are a little bit more expensive, some are cost a little bit less. But no matter how you slice it, ballet training is really, really expensive. And so keep your options open.
So, and every family's different. The key is really to remain flexible because things can change in an instant. And, that whole like this company or bust or this school or bust. Houston Ballet came out of left field for Sam. Like that was not part of the initial plan, but circumstances changed and this opportunity presented itself and off he went. With very little notice. Yeah. So it's really important to keep an open mind with all of this because offers might come out of left field that you didn't anticipate. And if your focus is too narrow, new and unexpected options for training or anything, your dancer might miss a fabulous opportunity.
That's really true.
So, and in the note we got from this reader, you mentioned that your daughter wants a career outside of the US, but not in Europe. So we're assuming North America. You've probably done this, but spend some time getting to know the various North American companies and look where the dancers came from. For some companies, like New York City Ballet, for example, pretty much the only way to get into the company is through the school. That's at the entry level. Yep. We're not talking about higher up, but really you're going from SAB into the company.
Right.
For others, there are lots of examples of different ways in. Let's use National Ballet of Canada as an example. National Ballet of Canada has some dancers who trained at the school. The school's not affiliated directly, but it does serve as a feeder into the school. However, there are just as many that came in from other schools in North America, as well as from schools around the world.
Right.
And this is just one example, but it's a worthwhile exercise to see what the paths are into a particular company because that way you can maximize your options.
Right. And we'll leave you with one final thought. It is rare that a dancer decides that there is one perfect company for them and they wind up in that company. If you're thinking about training, look at the various dance schools and where they place their dancers. If they don't end up in a company that is affiliated with that school, where do they go? Ballet is a numbers game, and only a few to make it to the top level of any school and then into the trainee program and then into a company. So it's important to really be casting a wide net when you're looking at training options as well as career options, because there are a lot of great places out there and there could be really some unexpected surprises. So don't discount something just because you want this one particular, SFB or bust or whatever.
Right. Just keep an open mind.
Really.
So this brings us to the end of our time with you. But as always, thanks so much for the really insightful questions. And please keep them coming. They were great this week. And if you liked this video, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also follow us on Facebook. We also have a newsletter that you can subscribe to at ballethelpdesk.com. And we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.